This is part 2 of a 3-part series on Sharon Stone's stroke. I'm Elton Sherwin, the producer of this series. The question I asked our dynamic duo from Google's Notebook LM was, if Sharon Stone with a brain bleed showed up today with her symptoms at a major stroke center, has the technology improved, or might she still be misdiagnosed for 9 days? Her stroke happened in 2001, so a lot has changed. In this episode, you'll hear about a 6-hour window for treating one type of brain bleed. That does not mean you should wait 5.5 hours to go to the ER. If you experience any stroke symptoms, such as sudden severe headaches, drooping of the face, slurred speech, unexplained confusion, weakness or numbness in your hands, your arms, your legs, you should go immediately to the ER, even if the symptoms quickly disappear. Call an ambulance or have someone drive you to the ER. Not urgent care, not your doctor's office. Go to the ER. Time is brain. The longer you wait to be evaluated, the more of your brain is likely to be permanently disabled. Yes, the windows of treatment have gotten longer. There have been numerous new treatments, and you'll hear about some of them in this podcast. But the core truth is, sooner is better when it comes to strokes. Never wait when there's even a chance you might be having a stroke. So here is how our AI dynamic duo answered the question, if Sharon Stone showed up today at a hospital with her brain bleed, has the technology improved, or might she be misdiagnosed again?
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something that is, it's genuinely terrifying. A diagnosis where every single second counts.
It really is. We're talking about aneurysmal subarachnoid hemorrhage, or ASAH.
And what that means is bleeding in the brain from a ruptured aneurysm.
Exactly. It's an absolute life or death scenario, and the entire game is about speed.
So for our mission today, we're building this whole deep dive around a really specific high-stakes question. It comes from the story of Sharon Stone back in 2001.
A truly catastrophic case.
Catastrophic is the right word. She had a stroke, a ruptured vertebral artery that led to a 9-day brain bleed. 9 days. And what's so disturbing is that she said they had missed it with the first angiogram. And even worse, that they decided that I was faking it.
Faking it with a brain bleed, it's almost unbelievable.
So here's the question we're going to unpack today. Using the brand new 2023 AHASA guidelines and some really cutting-edge studies on technology. If Sharon Stone walked into a top-tier stroke center today with those exact same symptoms...
Would it happen again?
Exactly. Would modern technology and protocols guarantee a better outcome? Or is that human element, that risk of being dismissed, still the biggest danger?
It's a fascinating comparison. I mean, you're putting the failure of the past up against the supposed standard of the present.
Let's just start with the stakes. The consequences of that delay for her were they were brutal.
Oh, life-altering.
Completely. She needed brain surgery, obviously. But even years later, the right side of her face fell, her left foot was dragging, she had severe stuttering.
And I believe she's still on daily medication for severe brain seizures.
She is. All of that just underscores why the guidelines are so aggressive now, right?
Absolutely. The 2023 guidelines are crystal clear on this. Prompt evaluation, identification, and treatment of the ruptured aneurysm. It's all recommended to happen preferably within 24 hours.
Preferably within 24 hours. Why is that window so critical?
Because of something called rebleeding. After the first rupture, there's a huge risk the aneurysm will bleed again, and that second bleed is often far more deadly. So getting in there and securing the aneurysm is the only proven way to stop that.
In a 9-day delay.
A 9-day delay is it's an eternity in this context, the monumental failure to meet that window.
Okay, so that brings us to the diagnostic moment. A patient comes in with what they call a thunderclap headache.
The worst headache of your life. Sudden, maximal, intense pain. It's the classic sign.
So back in the day, how did you rule out a bleed?
Well, the first step was a non-contrast head CT scan. But CTs aren't perfect. A small bleed might not show up, or if it's been a few hours, the blood can start to dissipate.
So if the CT was negative, what was next?
The dreaded spinal tap. the lumbar puncture, or LP.
Right. And what are you looking for there?
You're looking for evidence of blood in the spinal fluid, specifically for something called xanthochromia.
Xanthochromia.
Okay.
What is that?
It's basically the yellowish discoloration that happens when red blood cells break down in the spinal fluid. It takes a few hours to develop, so if you see it, it's a dead giveaway that a bleed has happened somewhere.
Got it. So it's definitive, but it's also painful, it's invasive. I understand doctors have been trying to move away from it.
Oh, massively. There's this huge study from Kaiser Permanente that looked at data from 2015 to 2021, and it showed a huge shift.
What did it find?
The use of LP as the second-line test. It dropped by over 11% every single year.
Wow. Okay, so what took its place?
CT, cerebral angiography, a CTA. Its use went up by almost 19% a year.
And a CTA is different. It's not looking at the spinal fluid.
It's looking directly at the blood vessels. You inject contrast dye, and the scanner creates this 3D map of all the arteries in the brain. You're not looking for clues that a bleed happened. You're looking for the aneurysm itself, the source of the bleed.
That seems like a massive improvement. Way faster, less invasive. But is there a trade-off? Are you losing accuracy by skipping the spinal tap?
That is the million-dollar question. And there's some nuance there. The CTA is fantastic for most aneurysms. But one study pointed out that for really small ones, say under 3 millimeters, its sensitivity can drop to around 61%.
61%. That sounds kind of low when the stakes are this high. You could miss it.
You could, but you have to weigh the risks. The LP itself can cause a debilitating spinal headache that lasts for days, and the CTA is so fast you can immediately rule out the most common, the most dangerous, the large aneurysms that are most likely to rebleed catastrophically.
So the thinking is you optimize for speed to catch the big threats immediately, and you spare most people the invasive LP.
That's the trade-off they're making. You're betting you can get the patient to treatment so much faster, and that the risk of missing a tiny 2-millimeter aneurysm is outweighed by that speed.
Okay, that makes sense. So how did the new 2023 guidelines handle this?
It all comes down to timing. The 6-hour window is key.
The 6-hour window.
Yes. If a patient gets to the hospital with that thunderclap headache within 6 hours of it starting, and they don't have any new neurological problems.
Like the facial drooping or the stuttering that Sharon Stone had.
Exactly. If they don't have those, the guidelines now say a high-quality non-contrast CT might be enough to rule out a bleed. That's a Class 2A recommendation.
So if she'd been rushed in right away, a good quality negative CT might have meant no spinal tap at all.
It's a real possibility. But after 6 hours, the blood on the CT becomes less reliable. It's harder to see. So if you present after 6 hours, or if you do have those neurological deficits, the old rule still stands. A negative CT has to be followed by an LP. That's a Class 1 recommendation, non-negotiable.
So the 6-hour mark is all about how reliable the CT image is.
You got it. It's all about the physics of how blood appears and disappears on the scan over time.
Okay, this already makes a 9-day delay seem impossible. But now let's add the next layer. Artificial intelligence.
This is the real speed multiplier. AI is designed to tackle the human bottleneck. 80% of these cases show up after hours.
When the expert neuroradiologist might be asleep at home.
Exactly. So you're waiting for a general radiologist who might be reading a dozen other scans or for someone to be called in. AI changes that.
How good is it, really?
We looked at one tool, Veriscout, and the performance was pretty impressive. It had a sensitivity of 0.92 for all brain bleeds. That was actually a little bit better than the general radiologist in the study.
And for our specific case, for subarachnoid hemorrhage.
This is the crucial part. It caught 13 out of the 14 cases.
13 out of 14. That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But the real win is the speed, isn't it?
It's the workflow. The system plugs right into the hospital's existing imaging network. The scan is done, the AI analyzes it, and if it detects a potential hemorrhage,
it flags it.
It flags it for an expedited report all within 10 minutes.
10 minutes, not hours, not waiting until the morning. 10 minutes.
Think about that. You go from a patient waiting in the ER, maybe for hours, for their scan to be read, to a system that says, hey, look at this scan now in less time than it takes to get a cup of coffee.
It fundamentally changes the entire timeline.
It collapses it.
Yeah.
So purely from a technical standpoint, with rapid CTA and AI triage, the chance of a bleed being missed for 9 days at a major center today is, well, it's vanishingly small.
Which brings us back to the really uncomfortable part of this story. Because the tech wasn't the main failure in 2001.
No, it wasn't.
The primary failure was human. It was the staff deciding she was faking it. And no AI can fix that.
And this is where our deep dive gets complicated, because the anecdotal evidence we found in patient forums, in news reports, it suggests this problem has not gone away.
It's really hard to read those stories. So many patients, especially women, talking about being dismissed, being called hysterical.
We're being accused of being drug seekers just for asking for pain medicine.
Yes. There were so many accounts of people with, strokes or brain tumors or bleeds being told it was just anxiety or they need to lose weight or it was all in their head.
It's a consistent, painful theme. When a provider has an implicit bias about gender, about race, about a patient's history, they can stop listening, and the patient's story gets dismissed.
And if the doctor decides you're faking it before you even get near the scanner,
then you never enter that life-saving pathway we just described. The best CT scanner in the world, the fastest AI, none of it matters if the door to diagnosis is slammed in your face.
So how are the official guidelines trying to fix this human problem?
Well, they're trying to build better systems to reduce the impact of individual bad judgment. There's a strong Class 1 recommendation to get these patients out of low-volume hospitals and into high-volume comprehensive stroke centers as fast as possible.
Why does being at a high-volume center help with bias?
Because it replaces one person's judgment with a specialized multidisciplinary team. At a big center, you have neurointensivists, neuroradiologists, neurosurgeons on call 24/7. It's a system. It's standardized.
It's not just up to one overworked ER doc making a gut call at 3 a.m.
Precisely. The system is designed to catch things. And the guidelines even call this out as a health equity issue. They explicitly state that being older, non-white, or being at a low-volume hospital are all linked to treatment delays.
So they're acknowledging that the system itself has biases built into it.
Yes, and they're pushing for what they call patient-centric care, which means trying to mitigate those biases with better, more standardized systems.
Okay, so let's pull this all together. Let's answer the question. If Sharon Stone walked into a top-tier stroke center today with that headache, that stutter, does she get diagnosed in time?
From a technical and systems perspective, I'd say yes. The odds are overwhelmingly in her favor. The combination of CTA, AI triage, and the protocols at a high-volume center creates so much pressure to get a diagnosis and get to treatment within that 24-hour window.
A 9-day bleed seems almost technically impossible under those conditions.
Highly, highly improbable.
But there's always a but.
There's always a but. The whole process starts with a human being. And if that first person she encounters, for whatever reason, implicit bias, burnout, you name it, decides she's just a hysterical actress looking for drugs.
And she might not even get the scan.
She might not. That initial human failure point, which we know still exists, can short-circuit the entire technological safety net we've built.
The technology is there. It's powerful. But it's only as good as the person who decides to use it.
That's the bottom line. It's a dual battle, one of technology and one of empathy and belief.
Which leaves us with a final, pretty challenging thought for you to chew on. We know from the data that delays are still tied to things like a patient's race, their age, their insurance. The guidelines can recommend patient-centric care and rapid treatment all day long, but how do you actually train out ingrained human bias in a busy ER? How do you make sure that every single patient who says this is the worst headache of my life is believed no matter who they are? That's the challenge that no scanner or algorithm can solve on its own. That was painful and emotional for me, a stroke survivor, to listen to. In part 3 of the story, we explore the emergence of new symptoms after Sharon Stone goes home. Please follow our series. This is Elton Sherwin. Stay safe and stay healthy.